Hey everybody, welcome back to Sip and Talk. I'm Joe. And as always, I'm ready to dive into some seriously juicy info with you all today. It's like we're mixing up a knowledge cocktail here. Strong stuff, but oh, so smooth going down.
And I'm Sunny, your friendly neighborhood fact checker. I'll make sure we get all the ingredients right. Speaking of mixing things up, you know it's always a good blend? Travel whiskey and discovering awesome new things. You have to check out our friend Mickey's YouTube channel, Mickey to Life.
Yeah, Mickey's the best. He's always got something cool going on. Hey everyone, welcome to Sip and Talk.
Yeah.
I've actually got a huge mug of fresh coffee right here, feeling absolutely great today.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm already on my second cup, I'm not gonna lie.
Well, you are definitely going to need the caffeine for this one. But first, a huge hello to all our Sip and Talkers out there.
Welcome back, guys.
We usually do a little small talk, but today I just want to jump straight into this because I found something on the internet that is just, it's wild.
Oh, okay, lay it on me.
So someone actually went and tested all the major generative AI models with this incredibly toxic, just super politically incorrect prompt.
Uh-oh, that always ends well.
Right. So the prompt was, which two countries hate Taiwan the most?
Oh, wow. Okay, that's spicy.
Very. And the AI crunched all the big data, scraped the entire internet, and it spit out two answers. The first one is zero surprise.
Let me guess. The PRC.
Exactly. The People's Republic of China. Obviously, given the daily news cycle and all the geopolitical friction, that makes total sense.
Right. The algorithm just picks up the obvious geopolitical tension.
But the second answer, and this is the kicker, the second country that supposedly hates Taiwan the most, according to the world's smartest AI, is Taiwan itself.
Wait, really? Taiwan itself? Okay. That is, actually, if you know anything about natural language processing, that is hilarious. And it actually makes a weird kind of sense.
Oh, you know why it did that?
Yeah, it's a classic NLP data bias.
Break that down for me because I was just laughing at it.
Okay, so think about how sentiment analysis works in AI. The algorithm doesn't read a forum post and say, this person is using self-deprecating humor, or this is tough love.
Right, it doesn't get sarcasm.
Exactly. It uses these things called vector embeddings. So it basically scans billions of sentences and maps out how close the word Taiwan is to negative tokens, words like awful or ruined or hopeless.
Okay, so it's just looking for negative words next to the country's name.
Yep.
And it turns out that if you exclude Beijing, the most relentless, aggressive criticism of Taiwan, like complaining about the traffic, the housing market, government policies, all of that comes directly from Taiwanese IP addresses.
That's amazing. So the netizens are just doing what citizens do in a democracy, right? Venting online.
Exactly. It's just normal civic discourse. People are complaining about their daily lives, but the AI takes it completely literally and concludes, wow, the people on this island absolutely despise it.
It totally misses the whole I criticize my country because I care about it vibe.
Totally. But, while it's a really funny glitch, a lot of observers point out that this specific thing, this identity uncertainty, is actually no longer just a local internet joke.
Right, and that is exactly the mission of our Sip and Talk today.
Because that internal clash, like the historical Republic of China framework bumping up against the modern everyday reality of Taiwan, it's actually functioning as the ultimate black swan event for global markets. Yeah, we're tracing the line today from this quirky little AI identity crisis straight to a terrifying economic projection. We're talking about a $10.6 trillion global meltdown.
It is a staggering number.
It really is. So let's get into the hard data here, because we really need to understand exactly why the entire globe is sweating over this specific island's geopolitical tightrope.
Right. And to do that, we have to look at the numbers laid out by Jan Bossel. He's the editor-in-chief of Veritas Europea. He basically synthesized these recent models from the Pentagon and the Council on Foreign Relations.
And the projections are just, they're grim.
Very. They estimate that if a total conflict breaks out in the Taiwan Strait, the global economic loss in just the first year is $10.6 trillion.
I really want everyone listening to process that number for a second, because 10.6 trillion is so huge, it just sounds fake.
It does sound made up.
But think about it this way. That figure is larger than the combined GDP of every single country on Earth, minus the US and China.
Every other country combined.
Yes. It's like an acute global heart attack. It would make the 2008 financial crisis and the pandemic crash look like, I don't know, a minor speed bump.
And the reason for that, the mechanism behind that catastrophic risk, is what supply chain analysts call a single point of failure.
Right. The chips?
Exactly. Currently, 92% of the world's advanced logic chips are manufactured in Taiwan. And we're not talking about, like, the simple chip that makes your microwave beep.
Yeah, or the chips in your car windows.
Right. These are sub-5 nanometer nodes. This is the absolute bleeding edge of physical silicon technology.
So these are the processors running your iPhone. They're the massive servers powering the AI we were just joking about.
Yep.
Medical imaging equipment in hospitals, the guidance systems in military tech, it's all stuck in this one geographic choke point.
It is.
It's basically like building the most advanced high-tech castle in the world, but you rely on a single exposed wooden bridge for all your food and water.
That is a terrifyingly accurate analogy. And the vulnerability isn't just geographical. It's actually temporal, too. We are operating within this incredibly tight 72-hour window.
Okay, wait, let me stop you there for a second.
Sure.
Because I think people listening are probably thinking about how standard supply chains work. Like, we love just-in-time delivery to keep inventory low and save cash, right?
Oh, absolutely. The whole modern economy runs on it.
Right. But surely the world has a safety net of chips sitting in warehouses that last longer than 72 hours.
Well, physically, yes. If a blockade happens and shipping in the Strait just halts completely, the actual physical global inventory of these chips would last roughly 90 to 120 days.
Okay, so we'd have a few months. That doesn't sound like a 72-hour panic.
But here's the thing, financial markets do not sit around waiting for the last physical chip to be loaded onto a motherboard.
Ah, right. Wall Street panics early.
Exactly. The very moment a blockade is confirmed, algorithmic trading and institutional panic just take over.
Right.
Within 72 hours, we would see a violent global market repricing.
Because they know the supply chain's about to snap.
Yes. The models suggest the S&P 500 could plunge by 40% almost immediately.
Wow. A 40% drop in global equities in 3 days.
3 days.
That is insane. And knowing that, I can practically hear everyone listening asking the exact same question.
Why not just build the factory somewhere else?
Exactly. We have the Chichi-PS Act here in the U.S. Governments are basically throwing money at semiconductor fabs to relocate to Arizona, Japan, Germany. They're actively trying to physically move this silicon shield.
They are, but that introduces a really massive analytical dilemma because the West looks at this localization of chip manufacturing as an insurance policy, right?
Right, disperse the risk, don't keep all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. But from Taiwan's perspective, this looks a lot like chronic de-Taiwanization.
Oh, I see.
Right. If the West successfully builds these advanced fabs at home, and in 5 to 10 years they decide they just don't need Taiwan's chips anymore, does that $10.6 trillion protection policy just evaporate?
Wow. So their armor basically becomes like makeup remover that just washes away their only leverage.
That's the fear.
But honestly, when I look at the physical mechanics of semiconductor manufacturing, I have a really hard time believing a piece of legislation like the 2OPS Act can just magically transplant this entire industry into the Arizona desert.
And your skepticism is 100% validated by the engineering reality.
Okay, good. I'm not crazy.
Not at all. A tech ecosystem of this magnitude, it isn't just a sterile building with some expensive lithography machines. It's decades of accumulated human capital. It's hyper-specialized clusters.
Like the whole supply chain around the factory.
Yes. For example, advanced semiconductor manufacturing requires millions of gallons of ultra-pure water every single day.
Which is super easy to find in the Arizona desert, right?
Right, exactly. And it also requires power grids with absolute flawless stability. Because a microsecond power dip, literally a fraction of a second, can ruin millions of dollars of silicon wafers instantly.
Oh, man. Not to mention the talent pool. Like, I read that in Taiwan, if a highly specialized machine part breaks down on the line, the engineer who literally designed that part is probably a 20-minute scooter right away.
Yes, exactly. But in Arizona, you may have to wait weeks for that same specialized part or for that exact engineer to be flown in.
So you just can't copy and paste an organic ecosystem like that.
You really can't. The consensus among the analysts right now is that despite the West trying to buy this insurance through the THPS Act, the ecosystem is just too dense.
So the shield holds.
The silicon shield remains firmly in place for at least the next 5 to 10 years.
Okay, so the economic shield is solid for now. But I want to connect this physical fragility back to that funny AI joke we started with.
The identity crisis.
Yes, because that internal contradiction is actually actively bleeding money from their economy right now.
Oh, absolutely. We really have to talk about the legal ghost in the room here.
Let's do it.
The historical mismatch is profound. The current constitutional framework is the Republic of China. It's this relic of the mid-20th century that theoretically still claims to encompass mainland China.
Right.
So when modern democratic Taiwan tries to engage internationally, this legacy framework creates a massive legal ambiguity.
I always like to think about what this looks like in practical, everyday terms. Imagine you're traveling abroad, right?
Okay.
You step up to the customs counter and you hand over a passport that says Republic of China in giant letters on the front.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And then you have to spend 10 minutes explaining to this highly confused customs officer that, no, you do not represent Beijing. You represent the democratic high-tech hub.
It's a nightmare.
Now multiply that awkward travel interaction by multi-billion-dollar international trade agreements.
And you have a complete disaster. This is where the mechanics of UN Resolution 2758 really come into play.
Right, the UN resolution. Explain that for us.
So that resolution recognized Beijing as the only legitimate representative of China to the UN. But it deliberately left Taiwan's specific status completely unaddressed, just totally ambiguous.
And Beijing uses that ambiguity.
Everywhere, globally. So when a Taiwanese tech firm tries to sign a bilateral trade agreement or even just operate in a foreign jurisdiction, they are constantly operating in this diplomatic gray zone.
And if there's one thing Wall Street absolutely despises, it is gray zones.
Exactly. Markets hate uncertainty.
So how does this actually heat the finances of these massive tech companies? Because they're making money hand over fist, right?
They are, but there's a mechanism analysts call identity uncertainty economics.
Okay.
It basically results in what they call the Taiwan premium. So institutional investors calculate a company's valuation based on its future cash flows, but they discount those cash flows by the amount of risk involved.
Right, standard finance math.
Exactly. But because Western democracies rely so heavily on these chips, yet diplomatically recognize an outdated legal framework just to avoid upsetting the status quo.
The investors price that in.
Yes. Investors mathematically price in this unresolved identity as a massive geopolitical risk.
That is wild. So even though these companies have the most advanced technology on Earth, they're running massive profit margins, and the modern world literally cannot function without them. Their stock valuations are artificially capped.
Capped by diplomacy. The algorithms just apply a discount simply because of the diplomatic limbo.
So this isn't just like a philosophical debate about national identity or history. It is a ticking financial liability baked right into a $10.6 trillion supply chain.
It really is. Which brings us to a super fascinating strategic crossroad.
Okay.
We've established the problem, right? We see the leverage, we see the financial cost. Now, we have to look at the boldest strategy currently being debated by geopolitical observers.
Ready?
How can Taiwan use its current undeniable tech monopoly to permanently secure its international future?
Well, wait. If the West is absolutely terrified of losing this $10.6 trillion shield,
right,
doesn't that give Taiwan just immense negotiating power right now?
It does. While everyone is utterly addicted to these sub-5 nanometer chips, this seems like the ultimate window of opportunity.
And you have just identified the exact core of the argument, and it perfectly mirrors the 1980s China playbook.
Oh, okay. I like historical mirrors.
So if we look back at the 1970s through the 1990s, China had this undeniable monopoly on cheap labor and massive manufacturing capacity.
Right, the world's factory.
Exactly.
Right.
And they weaponized that economic gravity. They basically told Western capitalists who were absolutely desperate for low-cost goods and high margins, they said, if you want access to our market, you have to accept our specific political frameworks.
And the West just rolled over. We happily traded political concessions for cheap manufacturing.
We really did. It was a complete masterclass in leveraging economic necessity for international recognition.
Okay, so the high-tech mirror image here is pretty clear. Taiwan holds the exact same kind of leverage today. But instead of cheap labor, their currency is advanced logic chips.
Exactly. So observers are arguing that Taiwan could demand functional normalization. Basically saying, if you want the processors that run your military tech and your AI servers, you need to back us practically and legally on the world stage.
Yes. The logic is totally sound in theory. If the world cannot afford to let the single point of failure collapse, then the owner of that point can dictate the terms.
Okay, and I have to throw a massive reality check on this idea.
Do it.
When China executed that playbook in the 80s, they had a vast continental landmass, they had millions of soldiers, and they had nuclear weapons.
Right, they were a nuclear power.
Taiwan is a relatively small island, and they are heavily dependent on maritime imports just for energy and food.
Very true.
So if you aggressively overplay this high-tech hand, without the physical military muscle to back it up,
Yeah.
couldn't that just trigger a blockade?
Yeah.
And trigger that market meltdown before your defenses are even ready?
That is the precise danger. And it's exactly why military strategists caution against reckless diplomatic maneuvering. You just cannot bluff a superpower when you live on an island.
Right. So what's the alternative? How do you survive this golden window?
The synthesis of this strategy, the answer is what defense analysts call the porcupine strategy.
The porcupine strategy.
Yeah.
Okay, I actually love that name.
It's very descriptive.
Yeah, make yourself physically too spiky to swallow rather than just economically expensive.
Precisely. It is the doctrine of asymmetric warfare. You have to acknowledge that you cannot match a superpower tank for tank or destroyer for destroyer.
Because you'll just lose that numbers game.
Exactly. So instead of buying a few massive, vulnerable $2 billion warships,
Which are basically just giant targets.
right, you invest in 10,000 cheap, highly mobile maritime drones. You deploy mobile, shoulder-fired anti-ship missiles and hide them all across the coastline.
Oh, wow.
And you decentralize your command structures, so there is no single headquarters that can just be taken out by a single airstrike.
You essentially build a defense system that is designed to inflict maximum bleeding on anyone who tries to touch you.
Yes. You pair the push for functional normalization with deep societal resilience. The goal is to quietly build up this asymmetric armor.
So when adversaries run their models,
Exactly. When they calculate the cost of an invasion, they don't just see a $10.6 trillion economic penalty. They realize the physical undertaking is militarily undigestible.
you use the silicon shield to buy time, and you use that time to build the physical spikes of the porcupine.
That is exactly it.
Wow. We have really covered an incredible trajectory today.
We really have.
I mean, we started with a generative AI misunderstanding internet users complaining about traffic, and we ended up dissecting a $10.6 trillion global choke point, diplomatic gray zones, and the asymmetric survival strategy of an entire island.
The complexity of global supply chains intertwined with historical legacy is just endlessly fascinating to me.
Same here.
But I do think it's crucial to emphasize the core mission of Sip&Talk as we digest all this heavy information. When we lay out these think tank reports, detail the military strategies, and break down the financial math from places like Veritas Europaea, we are absolutely not here to sell anxiety.
No, not at all. Our goal is purely about clarity. We want to help you strip away the heavy emotional labels that usually cloud these geopolitical topics.
Right.
By stepping out of those comfortable information silos and looking at the raw mechanisms, like how the semiconductor industry actually works or how Wall Street prices risk, we can cultivate true independent critical thinking.
And we must explicitly state that exploring these objective facts is not about criticizing or discriminating against any country, government, or group of people.
Exactly.
We don't endorse any specific political viewpoint discussed in these models. The goal is solely to provide the data and the historical context so that you can see the shape of global reality as it actually is, rather than how any particular narrative wishes it to be.
Well said, because seeing reality clearly really is the best defense against being manipulated by it.
Absolutely.
So I want to leave everyone with a final provocative thought to mull over on your own time. Knowing the absolute planetary stakes of this silicon shield, what is the optimal path?
It's the big question.
Should Taiwan aggressively leverage its high-tech monopoly right now to cash in on international status, kind of forcing the world's hand like the 1980s playbook? Or is maintaining a low-profile, functional compromise, quietly sharpening those porcupine spikes while the world is distracted, the far smarter play for long-term survival?
It's tough. It requires weighing immense economic gravity against existential physical risk. There are really no easy answers here, but understanding the forces at play is essential for anyone trying to navigate the next decade of the global economy.
Seriously, I playfully dare you guys to start a massive debate in the comments down below. Where do you stand on the porcupine strategy versus aggressive normalization?
I can't wait to read those comments.
It's going to be a good thread. Listen, if you enjoyed today's discussion, make sure to subscribe to Sip&Talk so you never miss our analysis. And also a quick shout out to our good friend Mickey. Definitely head over and subscribe to his YouTube channel, Mickey to Life, for his latest travel vlogs.
Yeah, they are a fantastic change of pace from all this heavy global economics.
For sure. Well, thank you all for spending your time with us and diving into the deep end of global strategy today.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Bye, guys. Stay curious and keep thinking.